What if the secret to wealth was discovered over 4,000 years ago? Before stock markets, before banks, before credit cards, before financial advisors. Imagine a city rising from the desert, surrounded by scorching sands, with no forests, no fertile farmland, no natural resources. A city that by all logic should never have become rich. And yet, it became the wealthiest city in the ancient world. Babylon, a place where gold flowed through crowded markets, where merchants built fortunes, and where ordinary men dreamed of escaping poverty. But among those ordinary men, there was one question that echoed through the streets. Why do some people become wealthy, while others struggle their entire lives? Today, we follow the journey of a poor man who asked that question and discovered an answer so powerful that it still influences investors, entrepreneurs, and millionaires today. This is the story of the richest man in Babylon. The sun hung high above Babylon, its heat pressed down on the city like a heavy blanket. Merchants shouted in crowded markets, camels carried precious goods through dusty streets. Gold changed hands. Fortunes were made, and fortunes were lost. From a distance, Babylon looked magnificent. Towering walls, grand temples, the king's palace, the famous hanging gardens. It was a city that symbolized wealth itself, but hidden beneath that wealth was a reality most people never saw. For every wealthy merchant, there were hundreds of ordinary workers, men who labored every day, men who worked hard, men who earned money, yet somehow never seemed to keep it. One of those men was named Bansir. Bansir was a chariot builder, a skilled craftsman, strong, respected, hard-working. On most days, the sound of hammering echoed from his workshop. But not today. Today he sat motionless, staring at an unfinished chariot. His tools lay untouched, his workshop silent. His wife appeared in the doorway. She didn't need to speak. The expression on her face said everything. Food was running low, bills needed paying, work needed finishing. Yet Bansir could not move, because a question had seized his mind, a question he could not escape. How was it possible that after years of hard work, he was still poor? He built chariots for wealthy men. He watched them ride through Babylon. He saw their fine clothes, their expensive homes, their overflowing purses. Yet despite working just as hard, his own purse remained empty. The more he thought about it, the more frustrated he became. Something was wrong, very wrong. Then a familiar sound interrupted his thoughts, the twang of a lyre. Bansir turned. His friend Kobe stood nearby, a musician, a dreamer, and just as poor as Bansir. Kobe greeted him with a smile, then asked for a small loan, just 2 shekels, enough to enjoy a nobleman's feast that evening. Bansir laughed bitterly. "If I possessed 2 shekels," he said, "I would not lend them to anyone, because they would be all I have." The words surprised both men, because they revealed an uncomfortable truth. Neither of them had any money, not because they didn't work, not because they lacked talent, but because no matter how much they earned, it disappeared. Kabi sat beside his friend, and together, they discussed a problem millions of people still face today. Why do some people become wealthy, while others never seem to get ahead? Then Bansir shared something strange. A dream. In the dream, his purse was full, heavy with gold. He gave generously to friends, bought beautiful gifts for his wife, and felt completely free. For the first time in his life, he experienced what it felt like to have enough. Then he woke up, and reality returned. An empty purse, an unfinished chariot, the same problems waiting for him. That dream changed everything, because it forced him to realize something important. He didn't simply want money, he wanted freedom, security, peace of mind, a better future, and he was tired of living without them. Most people stop there. They complain, they blame circumstances, they continue repeating the same patterns. But Bansir and Kabi made a different choice. Instead of asking why they were poor, they decided to ask someone who was rich, someone who had already solved the problem, someone everyone in Babylon respected, a man named Arkad. the richest man in Babylon, and that decision would change their lives forever. Arkad was famous throughout Babylon. His wealth was legendary. People spoke of his fortune with admiration. But what made Arkad remarkable wasn't his gold. It was his story. Because Arkad had not been born rich. He had not inherited wealth. He had not won a lottery. He started exactly where most people start, with nothing. And somehow, he transformed himself into the wealthiest man in the city. So Bansir and Kabi approached him and asked a simple question. How did you become rich? What Arkad told them would become one of the greatest financial lessons ever written. Arkad smiled, because he remembered exactly what it felt like. The frustration, the emptiness, the desire for something more. Years earlier, he had been a poor scribe. Day after day, he copied records onto clay tablets. Long hours, small pay, no wealth, just work. Like many people, he assumed that hard work alone would eventually make him rich, but it never happened. Money came in, money went out, and nothing changed. Then one day, a wealthy moneylender named Algamish entered his life. Arkad saw an opportunity, and he asked the question that would change everything. How can I become wealthy? Most people never ask that question seriously. They assume they already know, or they assume wealth is impossible. Arkad was different. He wanted to learn, and because he wanted to learn, he was finally ready to receive an answer. Algamish looked at the young scribe, then gave him a lesson so simple that most people overlook it. A lesson that became the foundation of Arkad's entire fortune. He said, "A part of all you earn is yours to keep." At first, Arkad didn't understand. Of course his earnings were his, who else's would they be? But Algamish explained, every time you earn money, you pay everyone else first. The merchant, the landlord, the tailor, the food seller, the tax collector. Everyone receives a share. Everyone except you. And that is why most people remain poor, because they spend their entire lives working for others, without ever paying themselves first. Arkad listened carefully. But hearing wisdom and applying wisdom are two different things. The real test was about to begin. Arkad left that conversation inspired. But inspiration alone changes nothing. For the next month, he followed Algamish's advice. Every time he earned 10 coins, he kept one, just one. The first month felt insignificant. The second month felt slow. The third month felt frustrating. Because like most people, Arkad wanted results immediately. But something unexpected happened. For the first time in his life, his purse began growing. Not dramatically, not overnight, but steadily. And that changed the way he thought, because he realized something most people never understand. Wealth is not built through a single giant event. It is built through small actions repeated consistently. 1 coin, 1 week, 1 month, 1 year. The process felt boring, and that is exactly why most people never become wealthy. They underestimate the power of slow progress. Then came his first opportunity, or so he thought. Arkad had accumulated a small amount of savings. Eager to grow it, he invested his money with a brickmaker. The brickmaker promised to travel and purchase rare jewels, then return and sell them for a profit. It sounded brilliant. Easy money. Fast money. Exciting money. There was only one problem. The brickmaker knew nothing about jewels. When he returned, the precious gems turned out to be worthless colored glass. Arkad lost everything. Years of saving, gone. And like many people after their first investment loss, he felt discouraged, embarrassed, angry, ready to quit. But Algamish laughed, not because he enjoyed Arkad's pain, because the lesson was so obvious. Why trust a brickmaker to buy jewels? If you want advice about jewels, ask a jeweler. If you want advice about investing, ask an investor. If you want advice about business, ask someone who has built one. That lesson remains just as valuable today. People take financial advice from broke friends, fitness advice from unhealthy people, business advice from people who have never run a business. Then wonder why the results are disappointing. Arkad learned something powerful. Before protecting profits, you must protect your capital. because a lost dollar can no longer work for you. Years passed. Arkad continued learning, continued saving, continued investing wisely, and eventually, he became so wealthy that the king himself summoned him. The king had noticed a problem. Babylon was prosperous, yet only a small number of people knew how to build wealth. Most citizens earned money, but never kept it. So he asked Arkad a question. Can wealth be taught? Arkad smiled and replied, what one man knows can be taught to others. Soon, 100 men gathered in the Temple of Learning. There, Arkad shared what he called the 7 cures for a lean purse. Cure number 1, start thy purse to fattening. Save at least 10% of everything you earn. Simple. Not easy. Simple. Most people spend first, save later. The wealthy reverse the order. Imagine earning £3,000 per month. Saving 10% means keeping $300. Many people immediately say, I can't afford that. Yet Arkad argued the opposite. You can't afford not to, because if you never keep part of what you earn, you remain trapped forever. The first cure isn't about money. It's about ownership. Cure number 2, control thy expenditures. Arkad noticed something fascinating. The more money people earned, the more money they spent. Sound familiar? Someone gets a raise, then upgrades their car, moves to a larger house, takes more expensive holidays, and somehow still has no money left over. Income increased, but wealth didn't, because expenses expanded. Arkad warned that desires are endless. If you don't control spending, no amount of income will ever feel sufficient. Cure number 3, make thy gold multiply. This is where wealth becomes exciting. Arkad taught that every coin should become a worker, and every worker should produce more workers. Think about that. Most people work for money. The wealthy eventually make money work for them. Today, we call this investing. Index funds, businesses, property, dividend stocks. The principle remains unchanged. Money that sits still loses power. Money that works grows stronger. Cure number 4, guard thy treasures from loss. People love talking about making money. Few enjoy discussing risk, yet risk destroys fortunes. Arkad repeatedly emphasized caution. Not fear, caution. Avoid investments you don't understand. Avoid promises that sound too good to be true. Avoid schemes that promise instant riches. History changes. Human nature does not. Scams existed in Babylon. Scams exist today. The names change. The psychology remains identical. Cure number 5, make of thy dwelling a profitable investment. Arkad believed ownership creates stability. When people own where they live, they gain security, pride, control, a stronger foundation for the future. Whether modern viewers agree or disagree about housing markets, the deeper lesson remains valuable. Build assets. Don't spend your life funding someone else's. Cure number 6, ensure a future income. One day, every worker grows older, energy declines, opportunities change, the future arrives. Most people know this, yet few prepare. Arkad taught his students to create income streams that would survive beyond their working years. Today, we call this retirement planning. Investments, pensions, passive income, financial independence. The names have changed. The principle has not. Cure number 7, increase thy ability to earn. This may be the most overlooked lesson in the entire book. Arkad believed that the greatest investment was not gold, not land, not property, yourself, your knowledge, your skills, your value. Because when you become more capable, higher income follows naturally. Learn new skills, improve communication, develop expertise, master your craft. The marketplace rewards value, and value can always be increased. When Arkad finished speaking, his students realized something remarkable. None of these cures required luck. None required inheritance. None required extraordinary intelligence. They required discipline, consistency, patience, and responsibility. the very qualities most people spend their lives avoiding. One evening, a discussion began inside Babylon's Temple of Learning. The topic? Luck. Everyone wanted it. Everyone hoped for it. Everyone believed someone else had more of it. The question was simple. Can luck be attracted? As stories were shared, a surprising pattern emerged. Most opportunities had arrived disguised as decisions. A business partnership, an investment, a purchase, an idea. And each time, the opportunity disappeared for the same reason. Delay. People hesitated, waited, overthought, postponed, and someone else acted first. The Babylonians reached a powerful conclusion. Luck often favors action, not perfect action, action, because opportunity rarely waits forever, and procrastination quietly destroys more dreams than failure ever will. Think about your own life. How many opportunities have disappeared because you weren't ready? How many goals remain unfinished? How many ideas remain trapped inside your head? Arkad believed luck isn't something you find. It is something you create through preparation and action. But Arkad's wisdom didn't end there. He taught another framework, the 5 laws of gold. And these laws explain why some people build lasting wealth, while others lose it. First law. Gold comes gladly to those who save a portion of their income. Wealth rewards consistency, not intensity. Second law. Gold works diligently for wise owners. Money wants a job. Give it one. Third law. Gold clings to the protection of the cautious owner. Protect what you build. Fourth law. Gold escapes those who invest in things they do not understand. Knowledge first, investment second. Fifth law. Gold flees those who chase impossible returns. Greed has destroyed more fortunes than poverty ever has. Every financial bubble in history, every scam, every disaster can be traced back to this law. People stop wanting reasonable growth and start wanting miracles. That is when wealth disappears. At first glance, The Richest Man in Babylon appears to be a book about money, but it isn't. Not really. It's a book about behavior, because money amplifies who you already are. If you're disciplined, wealth makes you more powerful. If you're careless, wealth magnifies your mistakes. The true lesson of Babylon is not, how do I get rich? The true lesson is, who must I become to deserve wealth? Arkad didn't become rich because he discovered a secret shortcut. He became rich because he became the type of person capable of managing wealth. And that distinction changes everything. Thousands of years have passed since Babylon stood at the height of its power. Its walls are gone. Its markets are silent. Its merchants have disappeared into history. Yet the principles remain. Because human nature remains, people still spend more than they earn. People still delay investing. People still chase shortcuts. People still hope luck will save them. And people still wonder why wealth feels out of reach. The answer today is the same answer Arkad gave thousands of years ago. Keep a portion of all you earn. Control your spending. Make your money work. Protect what you build. Invest in yourself. Act when opportunity appears. And be patient enough to let time do its work. Because wealth is not created in a moment. It is created in habits, repeated daily, repeated monthly, repeated yearly. Until one day, you look back and realize your life has changed, not because of luck, not because of talent, not because of a miracle, but because you followed principles that have worked for over 4,000 years. And that is why Arkad became the richest man in Babylon. If you found value in this timeless wisdom, take a moment to like the video. Subscribe to True Grit Global for more deep dives into the world's most influential books on wealth, psychology, success, and human nature. And remember, the best time to start building wealth was years ago. The second best time is today.